Hello and welcome to the Feeling Lighter podcast. I'm Coach Tyler here today with my co-host, Dr. Lisa.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Lisa. How are you?
You keep saying Dr. Lisa.
Dr. Lisa.
I am so well. How
we did an episode on receiving compliments and kindness. You earned that doctorate degree, so you should have that title before your name.
I appreciate you. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing all right, yeah. And I'm excited for today's guest because, speaking of being able to receive and being able to show up for yourself in a more positive and meaningful way, this guest has been on a journey herself in learning how to do this. And I think it's going to be a great conversation that we can have to really support our listeners who are all on that same journey of learning how to show up for themselves from a different place. So I'm going to start with a quote I saw. I like this quote because I think that when people start their journey, there's so much pressure that we put on ourselves, and there's so much attachment to this thing needs to be exactly this way, and there's not a lot of flexibility to the changes that happen, because like we say on this podcast a lot, life be lifing all the time, right? And we don't always have control over that. So the quote I wanted to read was, "As seasons change, so do we. Embrace the shift, tune into what you need right now, and leave the rest behind." Ali, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're super happy to have you.
Yeah.
So, writing something like this probably came from a lot of trial and error and a lot of ways that you later found out probably weren't serving you. So I'd love to start out today just by asking you, tell us about your journey from where you started to where you are now and why it's led you to teach the messages you're teaching.
Wow. Well, I'm going to have to try to be concise. Where do I start with the beginning of the journey? I'd say, honestly, the journey probably started in childhood when I started to have some signs of what I figured out 20-something years later of autoimmune disorder, which for me is ulcerative colitis. As a kiddo, I was a very perfectionist type. I think, Dr. Lisa can understand.
You really have listened to our episodes.
I have. Always like a doer, very getting everything done, very methodical. And I certainly wouldn't say that was the reason I have an autoimmune disorder. It's just an interesting correlation that they find with particularly women and perfectionism. So I wasn't feeling that great even as a kid, but I kept pushing through. Was a very high achiever, an entrepreneur for years, opened too many businesses, some of which did well, some of them didn't. And along that path, continued to kind of ignore certain signals in my own body. I got to a point in my business where I was ready to kind of take a break. So I sold the last business that I was a part of, which was not a health coaching business, I really knew I needed to focus on my health. And it was at a point where I had been searching to figure out what is it that's going on in my body? Why do I feel this way? But I wasn't really, number one, taken seriously, and I couldn't get the answers that I wanted. And I kept saying, I just have to push harder. I just got to push through it. That was a big mentality of mine. It's just do, more. And I think a lot of my self-worth was wrapped up in that.
Right.
Well, eventually, the body either taps you lightly or just or you have a car crash.
Right.
I essentially had a car crash, and because of all of the inflammation going on in my gut, I ended up with something called intussusception, which is very, very rare for an adult to have. It's something that's more common in toddlers, and your small intestine essentially collapses into itself. And I ended up in the hospital. I had to have 13 inches of my small intestines removed. And at that point, that was like the big turning point for me. I said, okay, I really have to take my health seriously. I need to address what's going on. And honestly, waking up from that situation in a hospital room and going, I'm still here, was a moment I'll never forget. And I knew I had to and I not only knew, but wanted to care for myself on a deep level, because every day is not a given, it's a gift. And I that was really a huge turning point for me. So that's a high level summary of kind of what got me on this path several years ago to become a certified health coach. I literally signed up to become a health coach from the hospital bed. I was there recovering for about a week. It was something I was curious about and wanted to get into anyway, and that was the final push. And so I've been on that path ever since, and it has not been a straight path, but if I can coach myself and be kind to myself, I'd say most people can, because it's not an easy road, and it's not an everyday. I don't wake up every day going, I'm worthy. You do have to keep retraining yourself, and eventually it does become easier, but it's not right away.
I think that's so profound that, I had read that you woke up in the hospital and that's when you signed up to be a health coach. I think that is so, talk about taking action immediately, right? But I want to point out, I want to highlight something that you said. You talked about being an overachiever, a high achiever, but also noting that that's not the reason that you developed an autoimmune disease. And I do think that sometimes we are very quick, especially as women, to sort of blame ourselves. We 100%. Believe that our entire health status is our responsibility. We can change and fix all things, and we do too much of this or too little of that, and that's the problem. And I do think that there's something beautiful about releasing that responsibility and understanding that we don't have full control, and all that we can do is respond sometimes to what is happening versus, saying, I did this to myself. If I just, that's just going to create more stress in your body and probably more illness and disease. So just taking a deep breath and recognizing okay, didn't want this, don't want this, but here we are. What can I do to make this better for myself now? So thank you for that.
I love that you brought that up, because it is something I want to expand on. I think that we're in an interesting time right now where, although it's wonderful that we have so much information coming to us and so many people, influencers, etc., are posting different ways of healing and different ways of biohacking, etc. And that's great. And although I think some things work for some people, there is a big part of your body that is genetic. And some people, the genetics plus the environment creates the disorder or turns up the likelihood of that. And it is so... it was really a big lesson for me to say this wasn't something I did, and I'm not completely in control. As someone who's, the perfectionism control thing goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
So I really, for years and probably for too long, was trying to heal my own body with ways that I thought were going to work. And then it led to disappointment and what am I doing wrong? When really there is a sense of surrender and acceptance as well, that you can support your body in a natural way and also receive certain other medical interventions that may be necessary. And I am completely bought in on all of that. You can't, it's really, really hard to, a lot of people think, well, I can master my body so I can master everything. And that's not what I mean when I say master your body, master your life. I mean understand your own body, and what it really needs to heal. And that is different for everyone. And some people respond really well to only naturopathic means. Some people dump thousands and thousands of dollars into that and so many hours, and they don't feel better. So it's really 100%. Important to recognize what your body really needs. And sometimes you do need to blend two things.
Yeah, I love that. It's not black and white, either or. It's usually but and also 100%.
I'm so happy you said that as well, because I have spent countless amounts of hours and money on functional health for myself, for my children, my wife, and there have been times where that was helpful, and there have been times where we spent so much energy, time, and money on something that didn't serve us, and traditional Western medicine came in and actually helped incredibly fast. And I think it's important for people to at least just not become dogmatic about their approach and say, this is the one thing, this is the only way, because you could really be hurting yourself if you believe that. So yeah, thanks for saying that. I also wanted to just go back to your story here, because I can only imagine like waking up and being like, oh, I'm here, right? I'm still here. There is kind of two paths you can take in that moment. Well, there's more than two, but when I'm thinking about your journey, it's, I am so afraid that I'm going to die, so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to become the healthiest person I possibly can because of fear ultimately being the driver there. Or there's, oh my God, I'm so grateful to live another day. I am going to love and respect my body as best I can throughout the rest of my life in this journey as a way to show respect towards it. And the outward appearance of that might not look that different to people on the outside, but the inner world makes all the difference. So how did you navigate that? Because I imagine in the beginning it's probably a little bit of both, but you seem to be tilting the scales significantly more towards love and respect towards your body rather than fear and insecurity.
That's a great point, and I'm going to tell you something that's kind of might surprise you, but everything leading up to that actually was more fear-based. Everything after that was more self-love. So
Love it.
I spent so many years pounding the pavement, hitting the gym hard, restricting carbohydrates because carbs were the enemy. I would like fast until noon and then have just a salad with some protein, and I would also I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning and run in Denver, like at it was very cold in the morning there in Colorado when I was living there. These are the things I was doing to sort of, it was like a punishment in a way. It wasn't out of self-love. It was more like, I got to do more so I can, it was how I had my identity wrapped around, how much more can I do so I can feel like I'm worthy? And after this happened, I, number one, didn't have a choice. It knocked me on my feet, and the recovery was really slow. So I had to really accept that I couldn't do those things. And not only that what what I was doing before was actually only adding to the inflammation in my body that got me into more trouble long term, because some bodies need more of that activity and they do well. Some bodies need less. And I already had this autoimmune thing going on and I didn't really understand it. So all I was doing was creating more and more stress on an already stressed and depleted body. And I wouldn't say it was a full light switch moment, but there was definitely an aha, like, oh, I have actually, even though I thought I was healthy, I was really just punishing myself in a lot of ways and not allowing my body to rest and digest. And I will say that I, at 45, feel better about myself physically, mentally, spiritually than I ever have. And I eat more. I move a lot less. I move every day, but I don't punish myself.
Right. So, movement is different.
Yes. Before it was exercise. Now I move. And I think it was just a moment of realization that I want to be around for my kids and my grandkids. And if I continue on this path of going hard and going harder and harder, work hard, play hard was my mantra, that I won't be around. And so that's really, it flipped for me there. And it wasn't fear, whereas before I think it was more fear. If I don't do this, I won't be worthy. And instead it was, if I don't really care for myself, I won't be around to experience all the things I want to experience in life.
That's so big.
That's important.
Can you expand on how it felt before and after? Because I think one of the things that we try to get our members at WeShape to really feel is the difference between showing up for yourself because you're critical of yourself and rooted in fear and insecurity and self-judgment, and showing up for yourself because you're intrinsically worthy and you deserve to feel good in your body. So can you expand on those feelings, right? You used the word, I think, punishment, right? Or something to that degree. I think that's something we've heard a lot of people say. What did that feel like beforehand? And what did that feel like afterwards? So people can start to experience that for themselves.
Yeah, I'm actually experiencing it right now as you're asking that question. So before it was like crime and punishment, I ate this, so I have to do this. Have to, not get to. That's the key. So now my feelings have shifted from this sort of structure from before. I've got to hit X number of goals every week, to feel good about myself. Now I wake up and I think, what does my body need today? How can I enjoy things? How do I feel today? I actually take time, and I've slowed way down and allowed for a slower life, which if you knew me before, you'd be like, yeah, right, there's no way that this girl could be a slow moving person, and I probably am not as slow as I could be even. And this is a practice, but I think it's really allowing yourself to do that, allowing it, because that's really, in our society, it's just not something that is praised. It's praised if you do more, if you're moving faster. There's some really amazing things that happen when you slow down and allow for the slowing down of your life, the pace of your life. You say no to a little bit more. Just seeing how that feels. Slowing down around meals, enjoying your food in a different way. So before I would, for instance, I just was trying to get to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. So even having a meal at lunch, I was eating over my computer, and because I needed to quickly eat so I could move on to the next thing. Your body doesn't rest and digest. So of course I had even more intestinal issues and digestive issues after that. Now I value feeling good after I eat a meal. I value taking my time to eat because it feels better. I think the brain really, you have to trick it at first, because we like pleasure for the most part. We do like pleasure, but if we realize that there's a lot of joy and pleasure that comes from truly caring for yourself, that really helps. That helps shift the mindset a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. What it sounds like you're saying is your shift in your taking care of yourself and in your wellness in general, it became like way more simple. And I know that's like a big part, the name of your business, right?
Yes.
I think this simple wellness. I really think that because the wellness industry, it has a lot of the same sort of toxic traits as as diet culture, right? This idea that like, oh, you can be a guru and fix this and fix that and just do this and eat like this and take this supplement and you'll be healthy and healed and you'll never need medication. It's so like, it gets to be icky, just like diet culture, like do this thing. And it's even more muddled because there's so many different paths within like holistic wellness, So I really appreciate the way that you shift the focus to more simplicity. Can you talk about what makes the way you approach wellness, more of a simple process and something that people can, sort of start without all of the pretenses and maybe, $1 million in their bank account and, just access to things that, most people don't have. How is your process, so much more simple than what we see when we're consuming all this content from the internet?
Yeah, I think that feeling good should be accessible to as many people as possible. So a program that's going to cost somebody thousands of dollars and tons of time, to me, that's not what I'm here to do. I want to help someone. First of all, we identify where are they at, truly. We talk about all aspects of life, including finances and time constraints and work environment, everything. And then work around those things, strip back and simplify. And there are so many simple things that we can do that don't cost money. And so it depends on where the person's at. They may come to me and say, I have something going on in my body that doesn't feel right. That's something we have to address right away. So I help empower them to take the next steps and to really know how to self-advocate when they go to see a doctor, or if they're seeing a naturopathic doctor. We talk about those things because I think that's really important too. A lot of people don't even know where to start. So we just start with the simple next steps based on what their needs are. Now, if someone says, I just want to feel a bit better, I want my digestion to feel a little bit better, or I'm feeling stressed all the time, there's of course lab work that can be done to identify things, but I'm going to ask them, how do you wake up every day? Do you wake up and you immediately grab your phone? Do you wake up and have coffee? Like, do you wander into the kitchen and you drink coffee automatically? Or do you let your body kind of wake up a little bit? Are you drinking water first thing? And there's simple things that you can start to do to really signal to yourself, I am taking care of this body today. And when we wake up and we automatically grab our phone, scroll, don't drink water, drink coffee, which is a pretty common thing. It is. So, 100%. And then a lot of people, because they've had the coffee, they're not hungry, so they don't eat for longer. Those are little things that we can work on just in terms of the rhythm of the day. And we have natural rhythms that our body has from the sunrise to the sunset, and throughout the day we have something called ultradian rhythms, where you might notice that you're hitting a slump at certain times of the day. That's part of your rhythm. If you actually stop and sit down for 5 minutes, even 2 minutes, just chill for a minute, you'd be surprised at how much more energy you have. So you may not want to then grab another coffee that's going to overstimulate you again, and then you're not going to sleep. Like, it's this whole rhythm of the day that we can look at. So I really want to get to know someone and understand what is their current rhythm. I'm not going to say you need to do 10 things at once. No, it's going to be very slow and methodical. Okay, this week we're going to focus on, if they're not drinking water, someone may drink plenty of water. Then we're not going to focus on that. But if they're not, we're going to focus on drinking water. First thing, let's get your body hydrated, right? And then the next week, we're going to focus on something else. So it's layered, and these are not expensive, crazy things. I really think supplementation is great, but that's like the last 5%. A lot of it is, it's 10 to 5% depending on how your body's functioning. If you don't have the other foundations down, if you're not allowing your body the time to rest, if you're not properly hydrated, these little things, like, what's the point of throwing in a bunch of expensive supplements? Like, we got to work on some other parts. And also, a lot of people don't realize that they're driving their car, their body, in the red. It's in the red, or it's on empty. It's been on empty forever. They haven't taken it into the shop. So we got to look at that too. I was one of those people, and I drove my engine right into the hospital. So it's important to just look and see how do you spend your day? How do you spend your week? Are you always inflamed? Meaning not just inflamed in your body, but in your brain.
Oh, wow. Because
if you're highly reactive, if you're having a lot of issues with friends, colleagues, there's probably something else going on too. And then the last thing too is looking at what a person values. If someone says, I want to lose weight because I want to be a certain size, okay, you have to peel back the layers there. What's that about? And there's usually a lot more to that. So for me, I want to feel good today so I can be around as long as possible and be functioning as long as possible and be around for my kiddos. That's a value that lasts, and it's not a punishment. So you have to look at what's your long-term value, not the short-term goal.
I like that, because at WeShape, we're a fitness app, but we're all about helping people shift their mindsets and their beliefs and engage in their community and really set intentions. And the goal is to find your deep, meaningful why. And a lot of people come in oh, I want to lose weight. My doctor said I need to lose weight. I want to get healthy and be smaller. I want to, sometimes it's superficial, I want to be smaller for my class reunion or whatever, this vacation. But when you can identify a more deep meaning, where you can start asking the why questions and go down why and why and why and why, you get to a point where you realize oh, this isn't necessarily a goal or hope that's serving me. This isn't something that's going to simplify my wellness or actually make my life any better. It's just maybe an aesthetic goal, and people have the autonomy to have whatever types of aesthetic goals or whatever goals they choose. But when we're talking about being committed to a wellness routine, a lifestyle, it's you lose that tenacity when it's something that's very superficial. So I think that's important to know. I have sort of an aside. You were talking about just stopping and taking deep breaths. I do that a lot, because I find sometimes when I go in my day, all my breathing is shallow and I'm rushed and I'm starting to feel anxious. And if I just stop, it's okay, I can't even not take a deep breath when someone says deep breath. I don't know if anybody else has that, but
we've just been deep breathing the whole time you've been saying.
Time to breathe.
You said I breathe, but I feel like our world and social media, everything is about go, go, go. But I have invested in curating a social media feed that kind of deprioritizes that. And I follow someone, it's the NAP ministry, and they talk a lot about stopping. Sometimes it's sit your ass down. That's the directive for the day. And so as a result, and in talking with a friend of mine who's consistent with this, I have started taking naps a little bit more consistently. So I want to know, as it relates to our overall wellness, how you feel about naps, napping midday, taking 20 minutes. And that's what it is. I never used to nap because I never slept enough at night. So I'll be a nap to me was 2 hours, and then I felt groggy.
Into deep sleep.
Done for the day. But I'm noticing these short, 15, 20, maybe even 25-minute naps they seem like they're helping me, feel better and be more productive, and it doesn't impact my night sleep. So do you have sort of a ideology around napping, or do you think it's significant or important for people?
I mean, there's been a lot of studies on these short naps and how it can really help brain function, and it does not affect your nighttime sleep. I think that there's something else that people do. It's like a meditation. It's not quite a nap, but it's a deep meditation, puts the brain kind of in a similar state. I do think that it is actually, if you think about it, we ask ourselves and our brain and our body to do so much now. It's kind of absurd. We've all normalized it. So I think if you feel good taking a nap, take a nap. If that feels good to you and you can, amazing. We probably took a lot more naps in our past than we do now.
Right. We
know? So whatever feels good, I say do it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Pro tipper for the people who are struggling with naps. I used to take a daily nap years ago. I should probably bring it back in. But my secret to not falling into a really deep state was don't nap in a bed or a couch, right? Just lay down on the floor. I was actually doing construction work years ago, and I would nap a lot, and I would just lay down under a tree. And the reality is you can never fall asleep super deeply on a hard surface like that, but you can easily fall into a nice deep rest for 20 or so minutes and then get up feeling really, really good. So that's just a thought for all y'all.
That's a good pro tip. I just set a timer on the couch, but that is a good pro tip.
Yeah, because you can't slide into that depth of sleep,
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to mention was, this theme of simplified.
Yeah.
Simplified is so beautiful, because earlier you were talking about, simple steps that people can take. And I'll never forget when I first started coaching people, I had this big group training program with hundreds of people in it, and we'd sign people up and we'd give them their fat loss manual, right? And of course it would have exactly what they need to do and blah, blah, blah. And eventually I started realizing nobody's doing this, right? So we pared it down. And then we're like, still nobody's doing it. So we pared it down, and we kept doing that. And finally I got to the point where people were like, so what do I do about nutrition? First of all, I didn't have any, I shouldn't have been giving nutrition advice. I wasn't actually educated in that, and especially the individuality of people. But what I started doing was sliding a little piece of paper across the table that said, drink water when you wake up. And it was like, that type of thing is so fundamental to your overall health. And like you said, collecting those wins that say, I'm here showing up to take care of myself. But they're so overlooked. And they're so overlooked because you got to get your red light lasers and your cold plunges and your saunas, and you're eating this and you're doing that, right? And there's so many things that we think of as more important than that. But literally just giving yourself permission, I like how you said that too, permission to rest, right? Yeah. Giving yourself these little signals throughout the day that you're saying, I'm taking care of me. Like, it's really important to collect those wins and acknowledge them so that you can shift your mentality away from punishment and pushing yourself and towards taking care of yourself and valuing yourself. So I really respect
did you
that.
see, this is so random, but
No,
I think this
love
is
random.
this is very applicable, I think, because I think your approach to wellness being so simplified is a beautiful sort of juxtaposition to, did anybody see like the super viral guy that woke up in the morning and showed his whole wellness routine? It was
I think I know what you're talking about. The guy who does the sprints and he's super buff and he puts his face in the bowl of water.
His face
and,
in the bowl of,
oh my God.
was it Pellegrino water?
Yeah,
like,
it was
he
some
did
like
it
bottled
4
water.
different times. He's out on his little balcony doing push-ups and running in place. It's like his day starts at like 3:30 in the morning. Did you see that? Like,
I've seen a lot of things similar to that. Yeah.
It sounds like you might have lived that, Ali, in the past.
that sounds too hardcore for anybody. But
well, yeah, I went through a phase of listening to a lot of David Goggins, and I think he's incredible. And when you need that motivation or you're going through stuff, I think there's, again, like we talked about from the start, there's seasons. There's always seasons to your life and what you might need or think you need during different times. And that's, I think, whatever floats your boat, right? Like, it's all good. If that's making you feel good and you can sustain that, fantastic. I'd say most people can't.
Right.
And then they set themselves up for feeling like a failure. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I want to help. I mean, I want to help people understand, all of these gadgets, and that's great. If you really feel that that's helping and you need it, we'll talk about that. For me, less is more. I don't do gadgets. I don't follow a strict eating plan. I like my whole nutritious foods, and I make most of my food because that serves me. It feels good. That's kind of my meditation, but I eat everything, and that works for me, right? So I think we just all have to step back and strip things back and go, do I really need this other gadget? Is this really essential, or do I need, I don't know, how many grams of protein now? I feel like everything, every time I open up Instagram, the next story is like, it's always yelling at me about protein. I'm like, okay, I get it. Because I eat protein, but I eat according to how I'm feeling. When I'm craving meat, I'm like, I want a burger, and I'm probably gonna make myself a burger, and I'm gonna enjoy it. And I love meat, but I don't like to. I think that we're all, for instance, if you go to Europe, my brother lives in Spain. They do not talk this way. They don't go, are you hitting your macros and your like? They don't think in these terms. They don't juice cleanses and all this stuff. They think we're crazy. They really do.
We are. No.
They really do follow a rhythm. They're a lot more about the rhythm of the day, and they pause. They have 2-hour lunches. We're very we're driven in a certain way here in this culture, which is fantastic in a lot of ways, but there's also the trade-off.
There's a trade-off, yeah.
In order to support that, we think we have to have more and more gadgets. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Maybe we just also need to slow down a little bit.
Let's go back to the slowing down, because, as someone who's been an entrepreneur for a long time, who's done the wake up early and crush himself, avenue, and then done a lot of personal growth work, and feels like I'm much more able to show up for myself as a place of self-care now. It's really hard still for me to slow down, to actually say, okay, I've got all this on my plate. I want to be a good dad. I want to spend time with my wife. I want to have time for myself. I want to have time for my community. I want to have time for a career that I love and am passionate about. And the hours run out in a very real sense. And so, when you went from this version of you that was hustling and moving, like the way that we see on social media right now, and that's really praised, to a version of you that said, no, I'm going to create more space for myself. How did you make that leap? Because I'll be the first to say that I've been attempting to make that leap for years, and I still struggle with it.
I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah.
So that's the reality, is that there's always that push and pull. I think the way to look at it is, and the way I look at it, is some weeks I get a lot more done, and some weeks I don't. And it's more about how it all shakes out overall. Sometimes I'm more present with my kids because I can be, and other times I can't be. Or I've chosen that I needed to put a priority towards work. And I think overall it's like just like a life, you look at your whole life, and it's not just one day or 1 week, it's how everything rounds out. And I've had to really, that's a big one I've had to coach myself on, is that, I hate the word balance because it's nearly impossible.
Harmony.
There you go.
Yeah.
But what is the harmony for me today and this week, and how can I flow through it a little more gracefully? And the big part is not judging it. That is the tough one. Yeah. Because it kind of is what it is. Our lives are what they are, and whatever path you've chosen requires certain responsibilities, and those are a privilege as well, right? So we just sort of have to also accept some things are going to be a trade-off that day or that week. I love the idea and the phrase of there's no solutions, there's only trade-offs. So we have to be okay with the trade-offs that we're making, and sometimes that means, no, I'm not going to be able to do an hour of yoga, but I can stretch, or sometimes I can't say yes to all of the social activities that might sound fun, and that's okay too. Yeah. There'll be a time for that. So it's sort of how I've tried to, and it wasn't a leap. This is a slow step by step towards accepting that that's okay.
Yeah.
Something that's been most helpful for me in this vein has been this recognition that the to-do list never ends.
Yeah.
Because if I think the to-do list is something I can complete, then I'll push a little extra. I'll ignore some of the things that, if I really examine my values, are more important to me than being a workaholic. And I'll choose to say, okay, I'm done with this part of my day, and I'm going to go spend the rest of my time with the things that I also really value and that matter to me. And that was a game changer for me, was just recognizing this list is never going to end. I got enough ideas for 1,000 years of building businesses. And so it's like, I'm just going to let it be what it is and make sure that I'm honoring the other things that are important to me in the process. So
I love that.
Helpful.
It's so accurate. And the way to look at it is, when the list ends, you'll probably not be alive anymore. So don't be in such a hurry for
don't be in a hurry.
Lists rolling.
Yeah, it's okay to have the list, and then you just kind of work through them as you can.
Yeah, I think you're talking a lot about what I call like flexibility, like having routines, having plans, having, an idea for what we want to do, but being flexible in your thinking and flexible in your scheduling, and allowing yourself the room and the space to say, no, not today, or okay, maybe tomorrow, and not being judgy about it and being mean to yourself, and going back to that idea of punishing yourself. You didn't get your workout in today, or you didn't eat the things maybe you prepped, like you said, you didn't do the things you said you were going to do. It's like just recognizing that we're humans and we're not robots, right? So we have to be flexible in our plans and our thinking around all aspects of our health and wellness. So
100%. And that's a big one for anyone who struggles with that perfectionism and that feeling of control. I need to control to feel safe. Yeah. Because we really don't have a ton of control. So giving that up is actually such a gift. If you can do more of that, that's been a big one for me. And some days are better than others.
Right. I'm with you there.
I love how you're real with us about that.
Well, I'm not a robot either. Believe me, if I could have a cyborg version of myself, I would.
Maybe soon. Who knows?
Yeah, right? Hey, you never know.
Ali, before we go, I'm curious, since you've talked about being this self-proclaimed perfectionist, we know some of us in this conversation also feel that way, and many people who we talk to in our community feel that way. What would you say to someone who falls into this category and is having trouble giving themselves compassion and grace?
Think about what I've been telling myself is that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to just let things be. It's okay. Like, just letting yourself know it's okay. And everything's going to be okay. Whether you think it's perfect or not, you're okay. Like, I think it's the reassurance, because there's a safety aspect. That's the reason why we want to control and have things perfect, because it's like, I don't feel safe otherwise. If you just stop and say, like, wait a second, if this is not perfect, everything's gonna be okay. And nothing is perfect. I tell my kids this all the time. Nothing is perfect. And I'm like, okay, Ali, you're telling yourself too. Because I have, especially my little one, she's got a lot of me. And I go, honey, if you don't try and fail, like, that's not living life. So if it doesn't have to be perfect. You just be. It's okay. It's okay. I think that's a big one. It's just telling yourself it's okay. Giving yourself permission to know it's all good. And I mean, easier said than done. But I think there's a nervous system thing there that happens when you reassure yourself nothing is going to happen that's really that bad if something's not perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that was really beautiful. Ali, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, they can find me on my website, alexandriaspursuit.com. I've got some new coaching offerings that are a lot around what we've discussed today. And you can find me on Instagram. It's Alexandria's_pursuit. I'm filming a docuseries/documentary around health and a lot of these topics currently, so that should be coming out hopefully in the next year on one platform or another. So yeah, you can find me on either of those places and see what I'm up to, and hopefully adding value. That's really what I'm trying to do through shared experience, because I understand things can feel hard. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us, Ali, and sharing your wisdom with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been my pleasure.
You're so welcome.